Welcome back to Brian's Art of Creation. This is sketching in clay. And for you, those of you guys who follow me on my social medias, you guys saw a video of this little guy earlier. And I've said, who's interested in a challenge? So that's what we got. Next month, the month of October, I'm going to do a challenge of 31 days of creativity. And it's going to be all about rediscovering, retapping into our creativity, and really trying to bring out that originality and our own personal styles. And just trying to really get into that. Every single one of us is born creative. Some of us have different flavors, different things we like, certain ways that we kind of express it. But every single one of us has it. And you had it as a child. The thing is like I always say, is that as we grow up, it kind of gets drilled out of us through school, through other things, through things that we have to do, obligations or, chores, certain ways of doing things. When we're in school, being told, you're not supposed to be sketching, you're not supposed to be doodling, you're supposed to be paying attention and taking notes. Or, art class is only one special elective. It's not as important as everything else. And then even as you start taking art classes, for those of you who actually pursue it, you put your full imagination kind of on the sideline because you're learning fundamentals. You're learning, how to do shadows or how to capture this or proportions, anatomy, which is great because you need those fundamentals later. However, it's time to kind of bring that originality, that creativity back into it. And so that's what this whole challenge is about. I wanted to do this because of two main reasons. One is just getting back into your creativity, rediscovering it, and discovering some originality in it, bringing some characters to life that you never knew you could create. And then two is developing a habit of creativity. So the first thing with originality, I want to go through and share a lot of the methods that I have either created or adopted and played with and kind of made my own, or things that I've learned from some of my mentors and other artists. So for coming up with original characters, I have a bunch of different ways. I have, basically some of mine to where I just do a portrait and just kind of see where the shapes take me. I do the same thing with a plaque and just kind of see where it goes. There's an artist on Instagram called with a handle of Beastrek, and he does every week. He'll do these, or not every week, every couple weeks or once or twice a month, he'll do these sheets that he puts out with this random shape, and a whole bunch of artists just go in and try to make a character out of it. And I've done it a couple of times with sculpture, and that's one of those things to where it's interesting because it forces you to kind of find shapes and things like that. Another one that I've done is starting out with a smiley face and seeing where it takes me, or starting with a ball of clay and seeing what kind of shapes I have. Also, following Simon Lee, there was a time when he was doing 20 blocks of clay, which I thought was amazing because he started out with a block of Chavant clay and just made it into a character. Every single day was different. So I'm going to do a couple of those. I've actually never done those. So I'm definitely going to adopt and try some of those out, as well as my own ways of working. Another way I've developed to kind of spurt creativity is when I started doing my little heroes. Because they were a smaller scale and I was used to doing a lot of portrait work, I decided to kind of just make a big stem out of clay just to kind of set the head on so that I could work on the head and try to capture their likeness, their character in a new creature. And then that kind of transformed into being able to move that and turning that into the body and just basically using worms of clay to make the pose. Even when I did that Reaper sculpture, a couple within the last week, that started out just as a sketch to see what I could come up with. And that's a totally original character that just came out. So I have a bunch of these different ways of just starting with the clay and seeing what comes out, because I love sketching in clay, and I don't do any scribbling or any drawing or designing beforehand. I just go directly into the clay. Now, as I say that, you'll notice that this is all about creativity. It's not about sculpting. So I'm going to be using sculpting, and that is my tool, but I want you guys to grab some markers, grab some color pencil, grab some clay, grab some paint, grab some watercolors, grab some pencil, do whatever it is that you do to get creative. Start doing some scrapbooking or some baking, anything, or even photography. There's endless things. So whatever it is that really juices you up, I want you guys to start trying to do it on a daily practice of getting into that and just having fun and creating something. And so the other thing that leads to is habits and building a creative habit. So every single day I'm pushing myself to create something. Most of the time I'm going to be doing original sketches and just developing the sketchbook, and I actually want to come up with some ideas on how to photograph and shoot them to turn them into illustrations. However, I love coming up with original characters. Some of them I keep, a lot of them I scrap, and they don't really turn into much, but it's all about the design and the emotion in it for me. For you guys, if you guys want to start on one and kind of work on a piece over the course of a week or over the course of a weekend, there might be a couple of them that I really love and I come back to and kind of work on for 2 days. But the goal is that every day I'm going to share with you guys and hold myself accountable to showing you guys something that I worked on. And in the event that, you know, something happens, I'm not able to, or I'm too lazy, I don't feel like getting up, that day I'm forcing myself to share a picture of like an empty slate or an empty board, and just, I have to post something every single day, and I will be sharing with you guys why I didn't sculpt something. Now, I do have a few events and online courses and things coming up. However, I think I'm still going to push to do a sculpt on those days. However, if I have to, I will show an empty board and explain why I couldn't do it. The other thing that this leads to is creativity is all about having fun. So don't be afraid to share your work. Don't be afraid to share pieces that aren't super amazing. I have no problem sharing a piece that I worked on for 5 minutes or for 10 minutes, or that I worked on for an hour that turned out to be horrible. And it's because I enjoyed the process, I had fun, and I got one bad idea out of my head. And so don't be afraid to share your work. It's all about the process and having fun. As long as you're having a good time, you're enjoying it, and you really get passionate about it, then that's all that matters. And by turning it into a daily habit to where you actually start doing it on a daily basis, it becomes a lot easier to do. You start getting into a routine of it, and then it turns into not I have to get up and I have to do this or I have to try this. You get to say, I get to do this. And that little shift makes all the difference. So, if you guys are ready, hopefully you guys are joining me on this journey. I want to see some awesome creative works, whether you have 5 minutes or whether you have 2 hours to work on something. Have fun, enjoy it, and I'm going to be sharing with you guys every day whatever I create. Have an awesome rest of the week, and I'll be talking to you guys soon.